Okay, Greg, Navy Thomas is here.
Oh,
So
yeah,
this is one of our guys, Josh. Navy Thomas. He's phenomenal. And he pounds the table every week about the 3-4 defense. He hates the 3-4 defense. Got to play a 4-3 defense. So we're going to have Josh settle this in regards to this current Nebraska team, based on the personnel, based on what defenses you like and think are more effective, especially considering the offenses and the offensive spread that they have to face week to week. What are your thoughts of 4-3 versus 3-4?
I am a very I like math, so everything is 2 + 2 is 4, right? Always. So I'm a big 4-3 guy because everything has its fit. Everybody has its spot. When we see this play and it's this defense, it's A gap, B gap, C gap, spill it, lever it, whatever. So I like that. It makes sense, and you can tell when you're watching TV. So when the Huskers, if we let up a big run and then we play it back on TV and we're nickels, we got 4 down linemen, and the announcer, because he's probably not very good because we're playing, Fordham or something, he goes, "Oh, well, that's on the linebacker." And you can, if you know anything about defense, the D lineman moved out of his gap. So no, I'm a big 4-3 guy. I think to have a 3-4, you have to have space eaters. You've got to have Alabama D linemen. You got to have 3 of them. You really probably got to have 5 to keep them fresh because they're just big boys. And, they have to take on – they got to take on double teams. You got to be able to keep your linebackers free. Otherwise, it's kind of hodgepodge, I guess you could say. There's no real defined gap. It's play off of this guy and play off of this guy. So if you got some dudes, then just let them go out there and play ball and give them a scheme and give them some movement and let them go play. But I would say for like 90% of college football, you don't have those guys. They're rare. That's why you just don't see those guys going to Alabama, all the time everywhere. You don't see them. They're just on those certain teams.
It's like a 7-footer in basketball.
Yeah, you just don't get them. You don't get them. And if you got them, then great. Let's play to their strength. But unfortunately, they don't grow on trees. They are rare, and that's why they get paid that much money in the NFL.
Greg, let's hear from you first on this one, because it's just not a first game. It's a first game for a team that hasn't been winning, that the guys that are on this roster don't really know success. So the psyche might be a little bit different. How important do you think this opener is against Illinois? It's obviously a conference game. That's unusual. But in addition to that, just for this team versus maybe another team.
It's absolutely huge. I can't think of an opener that's more important than this one right now, especially against a team it's a conference game. And, boy, I tell you what, I could not believe the amount of Illinois media that were there following around Brent Bielema last Thursday in Indianapolis. It was crazy. It was almost like the Nebraska media. Not quite, but almost. It looks like there's more momentum there behind that Illinois program than I was anticipating. So, Nebraska's got to get off to a good start. And, like we've talked about in the past, that's a good springboard to, hopefully you start out 3-0 before you head down to Norman and take on, one of the favorites to win the whole thing this year. Yes, this Illinois game, you've got to go out there and make a statement and, you got to go 4-1 going into that Michigan State game, to get the rest of the conference rolling. So it's important. It's very important.
I agree. And I think more than anything, because of the last 3 years and how they went, you've got to go out and do this for yourselves, right? Because you'll have a lot of guys on the team that, they're bought in, they worked hard, but, it's like, man, like, why are we doing so bad? If you go out and lose, you're going to lose a lot of your team because they're like, man, it's the same stuff over and over again. I'm going to transfer. I'm done with this. I'm out of here. That's going to be kind of the vibe in the locker room. You'll have some guys that are rah-rah and, we got to turn this around and this is BS and we got to practice harder and this and that. But you'll have the other group of guys that are like, we're not getting any better, man. We're out of here. Yeah, this is the same stuff we've been dealing with for the last 3 years. We should have did this. I should have played. You know what I mean? This scheme stinks. Why did you do this call? It's divisive, man. That's another thing when they talk about the 90s. They're like, oh, we were so close as a team. Like, well, when you're winning national championships, we'd be pretty close too. There's no arguments in the locker room after an undefeated season. So, but yeah, no, it's most important to keep the locker room together. Everything else aside, got to keep the locker room close.
And I think that this locker room is a lot closer than it has been in several years, especially because you have those super seniors that decided to come back and represent Nebraska for another year. And when you're returning 11 or 10 out of 11 starters on defense, you got some guys there that have a chip on their shoulder, and they're getting sick of only winning 4 games a year. This is not what Nebraska football is all about. And I think everybody on this roster now, the turnover has been enough to where I think everybody has bought in, and you don't have a lot of those kind of negative voices that come out of that locker room that Josh knows about. And, there's a lot of leaders on this team, and you got to look at a 4-year starting quarterback in Adrian Martinez, a guy that, in my opinion, I think he's in the best place he's ever been, in his mind and his body since he's been to Nebraska. And I think he's got the biggest chip on his shoulder to lead this team and to cut those offensive turnovers away and not put his defense in such a horrible spot to where they have to defend against something that they're not supposed to defend against. And you see a big shift in the team if that happens, and I think it's going to happen. And like we've seen a lot, the weapons that Adrian Martinez has at his disposal this year are unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this in all my years of covering this team. You've got a wide receiver room that is got 2 NFL guys hands down on it. And then you got a stable of running backs, and you got the tight end room that has another couple of NFL guys on it. So I mean, and an offensive line that's 12 deep. So if they're going to make a difference, if they're going to make a change in the culture, I think it's right now, and I think it's happening as we speak.